Part 2. True Stories of Hope and Restoration. Having courage does not mean that we are unafraid. Having courage and showing courage means we face our fears. We are able to say, "I have fallen, but I will get up." Maya Angelou. Chapter 6. Alicia's Story. About 7 or 8 years ago, my husband and I decided to get a divorce. He moved away, left the state, and left me with our 2 kids. Because we had known the divorce was coming, my kids and I moved into an apartment. When he left, he cut himself off from us. I was left with rent payments and bills and no child support. At that time of the divorce, I was working part-time at a youth center, which was a job I loved. It was something I found extremely rewarding. I was very attached to the middle school-age kids who went to the center, but the pay was not enough to cover expenses for my children and me. I didn't really know what to do. Luckily, I had good health insurance at that time. I was very blessed by that, since I had 2 kids. Just before the divorce, my son was diagnosed with severe autism. It was almost a full-time job to take him 5 days a week to all his therapy sessions, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy. Even though the state paid the majority of the therapy sessions, I still had medical copays, which added up. On top of these sessions, my son had class 2 days a week. It was a state-funded program for children from ages birth to 3 with disabilities. Because I could only work part-time due to the medical, emotional, and physical attention my son needed, I was evicted from my home. I had no help from my family because they were not happy with the decision I made to get divorced. In fact, at that time, I owed my parents about $500, which they had loaned me to help me with some expenses when I moved into my apartment. They insisted that I drive 2 hours to their home to work for them to pay them back. Things weren't good between my family and me. I ended up evicted. I hadn't lived on the streets, but I did bounce from home to home for a little while until a friend was able to make room for us. She was also recently divorced. She lived in a mobile home with her child and didn't want to lose her home. She asked whether I wanted to come live with her, so I paid her to live there. Because there was not enough rooms in the house, my kids had to sleep in the laundry room. It was a big laundry room, but it was a laundry room nonetheless. I was in the smallest bedroom, her son had the bedroom next to mine, and she had the big room. To top it off, it was a very smelly house because she had dogs that were not kept clean. It was not a pleasant situation, but I had no other choice. I didn't have anywhere else to go. My parents probably would have let me move in with them, but they were 2 hours away, so I wouldn't have been able to keep my job. I refused to give up my job. I paid my friend $500 a month rent, and I still couldn't make it on my salary. I think at the time that I made $21,000 a year. I did not qualify for financial support from government except for food stamps, which I did not want to take. I wanted to stand on my own. The only thing I wanted help with was daycare, but I did not qualify for that. I took a second job at a casino in the evening, which was totally a conflict of interest with my other job of working at the youth center. Here I was, telling the kids to stay away from things like that during the day and working at a casino as a cocktail waitress at night. It was humiliating, and it wasn't something I wanted to do. There were some great people, however, who worked at the casino, and I still have friends from that job. Many of them were in the same situation I was. I think it was a situation where many people were working because they could make some good money in tips. I worked at the casino for a little while, but it just wasn't working for me. I was making bad choices. I think working there was my first. I surrounded myself with people who weren't good influences, and even though some of them were good people, a lot of them were not. I think the best story I could tell out of all these experiences was about one evening when I decided to hang out with people who were drinking.